Hey everyone, welcome back to, or welcome to, depending on where you're starting from, Life's Hard, What's Next? I'm Matt.
And my name's Yasmin, and this is a podcast where we want to talk about the hard things in life. Now, just a quick disclaimer, we know that we're really privileged, and we admit that, but multiple things can be true at the same time, and just because we're very lucky doesn't mean that we don't go through hard stuff. And just like most things in life, it's easier if we talk about it, so that's what we want to try and do in this podcast today. Now, this episode, we want to talk about some hard things that Matt has gone through. In the last episode, we talked about me, and we thought that this would be a good kind of intro to both of us and an intro into this podcast. So, Matt, what do you want to talk about?
So it all started when I was born. No, just joking. No, I've gone through some stuff which is, probably a lot of other people have dealt with something similar. Not to the same sense, but same thing, different version of it. So I've always had an issue with sleeping. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but it really kicked off more when I was at uni. Um,
Just interject and say that your mum says you were a bad sleeper even when you were a kid.
yeah, I
So
know.
it's literally been like this since you were young.
Yeah. And I mean, so when I was younger, I'd still be up to 10, 11, 12. When I was like going through, puberty, teenager, all that kind of thing, it was more starting to get to the 11, the 1, the 2 o'clock. And then uni was just a different level altogether. Uni, the pressure of the lectures, the pressure of sort of managing yourself, the pressures of just, everything around it, the fact that you're spending money to be there,
A lot of money.
kind of kicked in a bit and started to impact my sleep a lot.
So basically you've always had a bit of issue with your sleep, but the pressure of uni, you felt like it really escalated your sleeping problems.
Well, it was as well being, first year at uni, first time away from the family properly. You don't have the support systems there. It's really quite different. You're trying to make new friends. You're trying to keep on top of your study, your lecturing, your assignments, all that kind of thing. It's just hard.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. People say uni's the best thing to go for. Nah, not necessarily.
I agree. Uni was definitely not the best years of my life, and my first year of uni was probably one of the worst years of my life. So if you are about to start university and you're having a bit of a hard time or you're struggling, there's nothing wrong with you. It's a tough time. It's a pressure cooker.
Yeah, honestly, I'd also say if you're not 100% sure on what you want to do, maybe take a gap year. And if you think that, you still want to do that thing, or you're like, actually, no, I want to do this, then go for it.
100%. Have a pause. Don't let yourself be pressured into doing it because that's what everyone else is doing.
Well, I found even at schools, our schools were pushing us to go to unis, to be fair, in year 13. They were telling us, like, oh, you should really go to uni. You need to pass your NCEA university entrance and that, then go to uni.
100%. There wasn't a lot of conversation about, apprenticeships or just alternative options to university. It was kind of the expected path. But do you want to, kind of fill us in about when the sleep problems started to really escalate? Like, was it after a couple of months? Was it basically immediately?
Yeah, so a bit about me is that I've grown up on a farm. So,
Dairy farm.
Dairy farm. So, as you know, not much light out there at night, all that. So, moving into the halls of residence was quite different because you constantly had like the lamppost literally right outside your bedroom.
You mean like city lights being in the city versus the country? Yeah, that's true. Yeah, way more light pollution.
Another thing I found out that I had, and as you know, because of me liking to listen to things when I go to sleep now, I also found out I had an issue with hyper alertness. So any little sound would trigger me, and a bit of that's because, again, out on the farm, you hear the animals, and that's about it.
Yeah,
there's nothing else. Whereas when you're in the middle of town, you start hearing people walking past you.
Especially first year uni. Living in halls, I mean, your rooms are right next to other people's. And I definitely found noise an issue at university as well. So if you're a little bit hyper alert and sensitive to noises when you're trying to sleep, I can actually see how that could really make falling asleep really hard. Because that is your thing, isn't it? It's the falling asleep specifically that you find tricky.
Yeah. So a little bit about insomnia. So from what the GP told me, that there's a few different aspects to it. So there's you can't fall asleep, you can't stay asleep, and you struggle to wake up.
Yeah.
Like that's the three kind of definitions. There's also another one in there which is more about feeling fatigued throughout the day and energy drained and those kind of things there. So it's really quite hard to sort of push through if, your basic bodily function isn't doing what it's meant to do.
I mean, sleep's so important to every aspect of our life, right? People who aren't sleeping, I mean, as an optometrist, I can say this, you will almost definitely have dry eye. It impacts your brain, it impacts your reflexes, it impacts your mood. I mean, it's kind of foundational to us existing and functioning as human beings. So it would really impact it. So yeah, was it like immediately or?
No, it was in a little bit. I actually can't recall. It was so
long ago.
So long ago. I shouldn't say long ago, but it was a while ago.
Almost 10 years ago
Yeah,
now.
almost 10
so
years.
That's quite a while ago. Yeah.
But
we're showing our age.
yeah, pretty much. But no, I remember the one time I thought, no, this is becoming an issue is I had a lecture in the morning at 8 a.m. And I didn't get to sleep till 7 a.m. I remember laying in bed just trying to sleep, seeing the sun come up, hearing the birds starting to chirp. I'm like, yeah, no, I need to get this sorted. Because then what I'd do is I'd just sleep throughout,
Throughout the day.
Throughout the day, I'd miss my lectures, that kind of thing, get behind on uni work. It was just a nightmare.
And then you get stuck in a cycle. That's really hard to get out of. I remember saying that to you when we first got together. It's almost like you're a little bit perpetually jet lagged. Your sleep cycle is just shifted so that you're always, staying up at night and then sleeping in a bit too much, and then you get stuck into that loop. When did you first start going to seek medical attention? Was it then?
Yeah. So it was after that. It was after that I decided to book in with the uni counselor. Oh, sorry, the uni doctor. Now, I don't know if it was just the time, the sign of the times or what was going on then, but I found the GPs weren't very helpful with this. I'm not saying all GPs. There was one specific GP who I went to. He would just give me a pamphlet, and that would be it. You go to him about anything and he'll just give you a pamphlet, and that would literally be it.
You gotta love uni doctors, eh?
Oh, you've got a sore stomach? Here's a pamphlet on how to stop getting other people sick. Like, he wouldn't actually prescribe you anything, but he'd be like, here's a pamphlet on how to... But anyway, so I went to the GP a few times. I finally got someone a little bit different than the other guy. I walked in and I remember this. I was like, yeah, I'm not sleeping. And he turned around, he just kind of rolled his eyes at me. He's like, how long has this been going on for? Obviously just thinking it's like pressure of uni, those kind of things. I want an extension on an exam. So obviously it's something he's probably heard of a few times. And I said to him, I was like, pretty much I've always never been able to sleep, but it's really, really got really bad recently at uni. And he's like, oh, okay. And we sort of sat down and had a good conversation, a good chat about a lot of different things, really. So yeah, we got talking, and there was a lot of other little bits and pieces that started to click together. So turns out I have, because it's still an ongoing issue, depression and anxiety as well as insomnia. So the way he put it, it's the perfect trifecta. You can't sleep. So then you start getting anxious about it. And then you start getting anxious about it. And then you can't sleep. So it's just a perfect cycle where it just keeps going around, because you start being like, I can't sleep. Then you're like, why can't I sleep? And then you're anxious, you're like, if I can't sleep, I'm going to fail everything. And then it just keeps going around and around and around. I just want to say here, I know a lot of people go through it hard and a lot of people have different opinions. I would just like to say that if you go on medication, it's not a weakness. Think of it more as a tool. Antidepressants do help. There's other things that you can do to help yourself first if you want to, like sleep hygiene, all that. My biggest takeaway from this was really try and get on top of the sleep first. So what we ended up doing is he ended up giving me a two-week course of Zopiclone, so essentially tranquilizers. Why are you laughing? um, I found,
Sounds funny.
yeah,
Tranquilizers.
yeah. I found that they put me to sleep pretty
Mm.
easily, and I was in a really deep sleep, but I didn't feel very good waking up.
Yeah.
And I found that they worked for like the first 4 or 5 days, and after that, it didn't really do much. So I had to go back to him again, and then he gave me something else called amitriptyline, which is an anti-anxiety and like a nightcap. So it's meant to sort of help with the anxiety, put you to sleep, like feeling drowsy, and then tranquilizer is meant to knock you out. Tried that, didn't I didn't go very well with the amitriptyline. I got quite angry if someone tried to wake me up before I was ready. If my mood was just all over the show, it just wasn't.
And to be clear, you're probably one of the calmest people that I know.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I could
yeah.
probably count on one hand the amount of times in our 5-year relationship that I've seen you angry. So, yeah,
Yeah.
not the best medication.
No. So I basically went to the doctor and said I don't want to take this anymore. So we just tried the zopiclone again, and it just didn't really do anything. So the whole goal of that was a short course of tranquilizers to get the sleep pattern back into place.
Yeah. To reset, you needed a reset.
Yeah. It didn't really, like I said, it didn't really work. My sleep did get a little bit better. It didn't go, 7 a.m. again. But it was still kind of late. So then we just decided to start, treating more the anxiety and the depression. Now, at the time, I didn't actually think it was a too bad issue.
Your anxiety and depression?
Yeah. I just was kind of carrying on, but it more kicked into play when I left the halls.
Yeah.
Um,
Because there are still some support structures in
yeah,
the halls
yeah,
at some level.
yeah. Versus when you're flatting.
100%. Yeah. Can I just interject really quickly and say that I think what you're saying about like trying all these medications is such a good reminder for people that if they try one medication and it doesn't work, they need to go back.
Oh, 100%.
And they need to advocate for themselves. And that, I mean, I completely agree with you. I've never been on antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication, but if I needed it, there's nothing wrong with it. I just have kind of no energy for people who are like, it's a weakness. I mean, if you personally choose to not use it as your first tool in the tool belt, that's fine. But like, no energy for people that shame others for taking pills that literally save people's lives. I mean, that's literally what they do.
And I mean, if natural ways work for you,
Exactly.
meditations,
Counseling.
yeah. I should also touch base. I did try counseling as well in this. I think that really brought up how depressed and anxious I was. To be fair, I did it 4 times, and then I just stopped doing it. The main reason behind it is that I'd feel really good straight after, or like maybe half a day afterwards, but then I just feel absolutely terrible afterwards.
Yeah.
It just actually made me feel like I was more down.
Because it made you think about all the things that
Yeah.
you're struggling with. Yeah.
So yeah, and so I was on medication kind of off and on through that time period. A lot of things changed.
Yeah.
I stopped going to uni. I got a full-time job instead. Just a lot of different bits and pieces. And of course, everything fluctuated a lot through that time period. I can remember specifically one time where the anxiety got the best of me. This was for a good period of time, actually. The only reason I would leave my one-bedroom apartment was to go to work.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I was lucky that my that my work was right next to a supermarket. So I'd go to work, get my groceries, come home. I wouldn't...
Because you didn't want to be out in public.
Yeah, no, I didn't want to be out in public. I didn't want to go and do anything by myself or anything, and it just was quite rough. I remember, I think that went on for a good like month or two, and I can actually remember it was late one night. I didn't have any food at home, so I ended up walking to McDonald's, and God, that was a feeling after that one. Just the fact that I was so proud of myself for just leaving the house and going and doing something as simple as that.
Yeah. So, and in that time when kind of things like really spiraled a little bit, you went from not being able to sleep very well and to kind of sinking kind of into the spiral that can be anxiety and depression. Were you still seeing the doctor consistently, or
No.
did you kind of drop off a little
No,
bit?
no,
Yeah.
I didn't. There was certain times where I would call the doctors and I'd go in for appointments.
Mm.
I can remember one time I rang up and I didn't think it was anything big. I just rang up and was like, "Hey, I'm just having a really hard time with my mental health."
Mm.
Well, the receptionist on the phone, she was like, "I can book you in tomorrow,"
Mm.
and I was like, "That's unheard of."
Mm.
Um, Again, I'd say that if you're trying the natural routes and you're finding it's not helping, just go and it might be an idea to go see a doctor and just
Yep.
see what they say. They might be able to give you some better suggestions
Mm.
than what you're doing. They might suggest medication. They might suggest counselling.
Mm.
There's lots of different types of counselling that can help with it as
100%.
well. So not just your normal, going to a counsellor and talking. There's one specifically. I can't remember what it's called, but it's about rewiring the brain. So yeah,
Mm. Lots of different options and lots of different resources out there. So did you go to the doctor when you had that incident where you like were struggling to just go to the supermarket? Did you go again?
I think I did. I think
Yeah.
that was one of the time periods I did actually decide that this is
Mm.
getting a bit ridiculous and I need to.
It's not manageable. It's not a
Yeah,
manageable problem.
yeah. I remember every day I'd go into work, I'd feel like I was going to get yelled at, even though work had done nothing to make me feel like that.
Yeah.
Just super anxious about going into work. I'd get to work, I'd feel fine at work. So when I was at work, I felt good because it was the environment that I kind of owned in a way.
You thrived in.
Yeah. And then on the way home, it would be fine. And then I'd get home and then I'd start dreading about the next day at work.
Were you still not sleeping well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That jumped back into it again as
Yeah.
well. That's when the sleep cycles got pretty bad.
So what did you do to kind of break yourself out of it a little bit? Slash, what was there one thing or a few things that like really helped you? Like, of course, consistently seeking help is huge, but was there anything else?
That medication thing definitely helped. I think I also started going to the gym.
So you did eventually find a medication that did help.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep, there was one.
Well, I think you just talked about the medications and how they didn't work.
Oh yeah.
But you,
Oh no,
you landed on one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, this is the whole, you need to go back, you need to advocate for yourself. And even better if you can bring someone with you. Like if
Yeah.
you're not feeling up to having that conversation, or you're not feeling like you can really emphasize to the doctors. Because, I mean, we said this in our last conversation. GPs in New Zealand have the most thankless job in the world.
Yeah.
They have 10 to 15 minutes, realistically 10, to solve essentially almost anything, or they're supposed to try to. So maybe you're going to go to the doctor and you're going to downplay how much you're struggling, but someone in your life can come with you and say, no, they're not sleeping till 7 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
They're struggling and it's impacting every aspect of their life. So if you have the ability to bring someone with you, I'd say that's a good thing too.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, no, back to the
Medication
breakout
and
medication, getting outside.
yeah.
Walking, the fresh air really does it. Physical exercise really helps.
Mm.
As bad as as bad as how cliche it sounds again, exercise is good for your mental health. It really is. The fresh air is really good. Started doing a few hikes, I think, as well, and that really helped. There's actually some really strong studies that support being out in
Nature.
helping.
Yeah.
I think there's also one about around bodies of water, right?
Yep. Yeah. Nature's bodies of water. It's the foundations, eh? Like, I remember listening to a podcast once where they said, treat yourself like you would treat your dog or like a toddler.
I was literally going to bring that one up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your basic human needs? Your basic human needs, or again, a dog, right? If you love animals like we do. What does our dog Ted need to semi-function / be a happy member of our household? He needs to sleep. He needs to eat. He needs to play. He needs to spend time outside, and he needs to exercise / get his energy out. Of course, like with us adults and humans, like you could add things like having a shower, like tidying up your space at some level. It's the boring stuff, and it feels boring and it feels like, oh, whatever, here's like another thing. But like the basics and the foundations, just spending time outside in the sun, like I know my mood when I go outside compared to when I don't is just like completely flipped 180.
Can I just also say with the cleaning the room thing, like cleaning the house, cleaning the room, sounds really daunting, but if you actually do that, you do feel quite pleased with yourself because you can see that you've actually done something. Can you feel a little bit of accomplishment with it?
100%.
Yeah, I'll definitely say that because
Same with working out.
I was
right?
going to say I remember my room always being a bit of a tip.
Yeah.
Don't let my mother hear me say that.
Yeah. Vicky, you're not allowed to listen to this. But actually, I was going to say, like, with all of these things, and again, this is why it isn't really just one thing, and I think you would agree with me, with your mental health, it's not just one thing. It's going to the doctors. It's potentially getting on medication. It's potentially trying counselling. And it's the foundations. Because the thing is, if you're really, really depressed, and if you're sleeping an hour to 2 hours a night, you're not going to have the energy to exercise.
Yeah,
you're not going to have the energy to clean your room, right?
Yeah, there's a really interesting statistic out there that I think if it's that you sleep less than 7 hours.
Yeah, or 7 hours, something like that.
I can't remember it exactly, but it's if you sleep under 9, I think it's around 7. If you sleep under 7, your motor skills, reflexes are the same as someone who is intoxicated, which is insane if you think of it that way.
Yeah. There's just so much more data coming out on sleep and research coming out on sleep that just emphasizes how important
which I've got some interesting stats about that coming up soon too, yeah.
And probably my last question to you, or second to last, I should say, is there anything you wish that you could go back and tell yourself when you were in that time? I mean, you've said the things that you found helped, which is exercise, medication, and like, consistent habits and stuff, but is there anything that you wish you could go back and tell yourself?
Just don't ignore it and don't try and push through it.
Won't go away by itself.
Yeah, no. You can hope for that all you want, but it is better to get help. Everything will in the end be okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anything major. Like, so even now, like, I'm still what you'd call clinically depressed in terms of it. Just a FYI, if you can be depressed without being clinically depressed. Clinically depressed is if you have a sort of lack of enjoyment is essentially what it is. You don't get pleasure out of situations that you used to for I think it's 3 months or more.
Yeah, it's like a chronic state.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the whole difference between feeling anxious and actually being anxious. I know with anxiety, I've heard it described as like when you're anxious, you're like swimming against the current, but you're treading water. Whereas when you're like actually chronically anxious, you're basically drowning.
Actually, I didn't really touch on that too much. With the anxiety, you kind of just feel frozen.
Yeah.
You kind of, everything around you just gets overwhelming and you just feel, kind of...
Stuck.
Yeah, well, not even stuck. You just feel paralyzed. NF. If you listen to the song Paralyzed by NF, great depiction of pretty much what it is. I found... Well, the most helpful piece of advice I got through that is if you're starting to feel really anxious, go around and name 10 things that you can either see or 10 things you can feel right then and there. I believe the reason for that is it stops...
Like within your environment.
Yeah, within your environment. I'm feeling the wooden table. I can feel the seat beneath me. I can feel my feet on the floor.
I can see my plants.
Yeah.
We have a lot of plants.
Yeah, I may have a problem. But no, that really does help. I believe the whole process is it's meant to get out of that thought.
Yeah.
That train of thought, essentially. It's just meant to break it and, separate and divide it a little bit more.
100%. Yeah.
That was really helpful. The sleep one, find what works for you would be a big advice that I'd say. If I could tell myself that now, I'd go back and, I got onto that pretty early, but just find a show that you're really comfortable with, that you know inside and out, and just listen to it. If there's lights in the background or anything and you're comfortable with the lights flashing, do that, or listen to a podcast or something.
Having something to listen to in the background that is going to mean you're not so aware of your environment and the noise. Because, I mean... potentially, although your sleep is a lot better now.
Oh yeah, it's just all has its moments, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, potentially, do you think if the sleep hadn't gone so downhill that maybe you wouldn't have got sucked in the spiral? Or
probably. Yeah,
or it wouldn't have been as bad.
It wouldn't have been as bad. I don't.
Yeah.
I feel like because you start to get inhibited by, like my biggest thing was why can't I do the simple biological thing that your body needs to do to survive?
Yeah.
Just why can't I just figure it out?
It's like yeah, exactly. It's like
And
you're self-sabotaging
yeah,
yourself.
exactly.
It feels like your brain is sabotaging itself. You're not letting yourself do this thing that you desperately want and need, and it's making you feel worse, even though it's, literally a basic human function.
On that note, one thing that did push me further down that slope was leaving uni. Now, I just want to say that to anyone out there now that's doing uni and thinking about dropping out, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
I found a career which I was relatively good at. I've been in that for
Very good at.
10, 11 years. I got onto our board in terms of training the rest of them, all that kind of thing.
And you're literally only retraining now because you're bored.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I'll interject here. You weren't relatively good at being a dispensing optician. You were very good at being a dispensing optician. It's just not challenging for you anymore, and it hadn't been for a long time when I met you, which is why you're retraining to be a software engineer, and which is fine.
So if you're old like me and you want to change, or if you feel like you're stuck at your job, if you do an undergrad degree, you can do it 3 years, do 2 papers a semester. That's 6 years. I mean, 6 years is going to be 6 years no matter what you do. So if you want to get out and try something a bit different, I mean, you could always do a couple of papers.
100%. And to clarify, what you're saying is being at uni was worse for your mental health at the time when you were in your first and second year.
Yeah, 100%. And then me leaving
helped.
No, made it worse to start with. I felt like a failure.
Yeah. Which I think is probably a feeling a lot of people could resonate with. I mean, I did really well at uni, to be honest.
Sure.
But that was because I put insane amounts of pressure on myself, and I basically didn't have a social life for like 2.5 to 3 years at least. And even after that, I didn't have much of a social life.
And you're also going through your other thing as well.
Yeah. 100%. And it's just my personality. I'm just such a regimented person when I want to be. But I'd say, again, when I was a residential advisor, I think like half of my floor failed at least 1 or 2 papers. And I've definitely failed tests and exams in my life. So, I mean, uni is hard and they don't prepare you for it very well in high school. So if you are struggling, again, just like make sure to keep asking for help and reaching out, and there's nothing wrong with you and you're not a failure. If you're struggling, it's hard. And you find that now that you're doing it a second time around, you're managing a lot better.
Oh, heck of a lot better. The mental health stuff really helps out.
I feel the tools.
Yeah, and I feel like the fact that I've matured
as
well, I feel like that's a big thing. I feel like at uni you're sort of shoved into an environment with, let's be not really adults.
No.
To be fair, like, what would you consider the age of an adult?
I mean, you're an adult at 18, but like your frontal cortex hasn't developed. You can't make long-term, some of the decisions that you make aren't the best. And there is a heavy, heavy drinking culture, which again could be another episode all out of itself, which if you're struggling with your mental health, getting drunk all the time is not going to improve your mental health in any aspect.
It really isn't, no.
If anything, it's going to make you worse. I do just want to jump in and say other things that I think probably would help a lot of people with their mental health is being around animals if you can, community, like being around people you love. Like it makes such a difference. But yeah, animals, like if you find someone that has a cat or a dog that you can look after or be around, like it makes a big difference.
Get a stuffed toy made of your own pet at home if you can be at home.
Oh, that's a alternative option.
Oh, I know people that got those like cat toys that like breathe, and they.
Oh wait, you're not joking?
No, I'm not. and they used to sleep with it because like it was mechanical, but it was just like a little thing that
reminded them of their pets.
Just calm them down. Yeah.
Animals very good for your mental health. Very good.
It's because they don't give you time to think about your own. You're always out there chasing them.
Very true. Now, Matt, you wanted to share just a couple of statistics to semi-round off the episode about how common of a problem this is, right?
I might give you a couple of definitions as well, just in case. So clinical depression is... so depressive disorder, also known as depression, is a common mental disorder. It involves a depressed mood, a loss of pleasure or interest in activities for a long period of time. So this is, I had this was me just not wanting to get out of bed. I just want to stay in bed all day. I didn't want to go out of the house. Just lost interest. So, I mean, this is like
classic definition, things that used to bring you joy and enjoyment don't bring you joy and enjoyment anymore.
Now, keep in mind there are lots of different subcategories. So, like bipolar is classed as it. there's lots of like different areas under it. Same with anxiety. So there's lots of different areas. So this is just a very broad spectrum definition. The statistics for depression that I think is quite interesting. Approximately 280 million people in the world have depression. Worldwide, more than 10% of pregnant women and women who have just given birth experience depression. So that would be your postpartum, wouldn't it?
Yep. Huge problem.
Yep. This is probably the big one. More than 700,000 people die due to suicide every year. And would be especially due to depression and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do a little plug here. Men's suicide rates in New Zealand are pretty bad.
Yeah, really high.
Really high. I think it's higher than women's. I don't have the stats on it. Or it might not be. I don't know. I just always know it's pretty bad. But I think that's because
I'm pretty sure men's suicide rates are significantly higher than women's, yeah.
And I'm pretty sure a big reason because of that is like New Zealand farm folk.
Yeah.
Not really taught to express their emotions, those kind of things. And they just see that's the way out. And
men just being socially conditioned to not talk about their feelings because of the patriarchy.
So those statistics were provided by the World Health Organization. I thought I'd better just carry on. The anxiety disorder is essentially a mental health disorder characterized by feeling of worry, anxiety, or fear that are strong enough to interfere with one's daily activities. So that's, you're too scared that you're going to upset someone, so you're not going to go to dinner at their place.
Yep.
Anxiety affects 6.8 million adults, or 3.1% of the US population, yet only 43.2% of them are receiving.
Not retrieving.
Receiving.
That's our
treatment.
dog.
Yeah.
Receiving treatment.
Well, there you go. My speech impediment doesn't, it's starting to come out. Now you also know about that. Women are twice as likely to be affected than men. It often occurs in conjunction with major depression.
Yeah.
So there you go. It's the whole cycle thing. They feed into one another.
What your GP was saying to you, yeah.
Now, the insomnia I've kind of touched on, but again, essentially insomnia is defined as difficulty either falling asleep or staying asleep that is accompanied by daytime impairments. Nighttime insomnia symptoms can include trouble sleeping or early waking. Daytime insomnia symptoms may include fatigue, impaired memory, or irritability. That's definitely been me the last few days.
You did get your wisdom tooth taken out last week. Give yourself some slack.
Yeah, true. So insomnia can worsen health problems or raise the risk of developing conditions. 2017 comparative analyst trusted source on the link between sleep duration and mortality found that when compared with someone who sleeps between 7 and 9 hours per night, a person who sleeps on average less than 6 hours per night has a 13% higher mortality risk. A person who sleeps between 6 and 7 hours per night has a 7% higher mortality risk. So that's quite crazy if you think about it. I mean, just the fact that 1 hour can increase your mortality rate by, 5% on average.
That's why I always have, and I always will, hate people who use not sleeping as like a badge of honor. Like, look how busy I am. I only survive on 6 to 7 hours of sleep. No, it's not a good thing. You shouldn't be bragging about this. It's like not good for you, Just
by the way, that one was from the Sleep Foundation. And I think it was Healthline.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty much, I just think those statistics are kind of crazy. The fact that so many people deal with it.
We are getting better about talking about it.
Yeah.
I don't think we're necessarily getting better at giving people the tools that they need, and we could have such better access to mental health professionals in New Zealand, but I think we are getting there, and GPs are definitely like your first point of call if you're really struggling, but most workplaces and most universities and schools will have access to counselling services of some sort as a first step.
I was going to say, it's quite good because like even now, health and safety is now health, safety and well-being.
Yeah.
So it's kind of being incorporated more into the business aspect of things now as well, which is quite good.
Which is really important, yeah. Do we want to finish off with some gratitude?
Yeah, if you want, you start. I've got a thing.
So I went for a walk during lunch and it was very cold, but I saw a bit of blue sky, which was really lovely. I came home and I patted Ted, our dog, and I gave him a kiss on the forehead, which I think he liked. And recording this has been cool too.
No, I thought you were going to say my burgers. My burgers was one.
The burgers were good.
My burgers.
Burgers for dinner was good.
me.
Yep.
The walk around the lake with Ted.
Mm.
Do I have to have a third one?
Don't have to, but it is good too.
I'm learning my gaming programming, so it's fine.
There you go.
There you go. There's three. I got through it. Yeah. Sorry if that was a bit rambly.
Too rambling.
Might be a bit of a hard listen, but let's just hope everything works out this time. We have been having some issues with the microphone, so if it's not as loud as last time, or something's up with the sound, we apologise in advance.
We did have to restart this recording a few times as well because the microphone was giving.
And it's still rambling. I mean, look at that.
And we're still going.
No.
Anyway,
all right, everyone. Thanks for that. I hope share this along. Leave a like. Give us some comments if you want us to cover anything in particular. Inside Outpost might be coming. Don't know.
We might do an episode about it. Yeah.
There's a couple of other things that we want to touch on, so
yeah,
we'll just see how we go.
Definitely. All right.
Bye. Bye, everyone.